You might be able to beat Rodney Terry's Texas Longhorns basketball program on the court. But one thing you're not going to do is disrespect them by throwing those horns down right in front of them. Never mind that you erased a 13-point deficit and won the game. Never mind it was against a team that made it to the Elite Eight just last season. Don't you dare disrespect them with those horns down. Good stuff. Good stuff. Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment. Hall of Fame College Football. We're going to talk about a little college hoops today, but mostly this is just an opportunity for me to spread a little bit more goodwill towards our friends down in Austin, the Texas Longhorns, who were making more news this week. And I figured that my video that compared and asked the question, hey, the video I put out yesterday concerning who was the more ready program between Oklahoma and Texas heading into their first season in the SEC got so much love from our friends down south in Austin that I figured I must weigh in on this basketball coach Rodney Terry controversy, in which the coach got pretty hot under the collar the other night following his team's 77-71 loss at home to the UCF Knights, despite carrying a 13-point second half lead at home. Let's take a look at what got him so upset and talk about it. As you'll see in this YouTube clip right here, he does it right on the floor during the handshaking line and is quite animated. Now, I won't go ahead and play that for you, what it was that he was saying, but I can tell you what it was. Let's take a look. And he's going at the players. There's coaches all around, and he's mostly talking to the players. Here's a coach saying, what happened? And he's yelling at the players instead. Don't do that shit, he keeps saying. Classless. He's yelling at all of them. Not all of these guys even had anything to do with it. Cranky. And as you can see right here, here's where they were throwing the horns down, and he will come in right at the end of this talking about it. I'll tell you, folks, this is just too good. It's too good. Let's be serious. This has been going on for an awful long time. Texas has had their panties in a bunch about the horns down sign forever, acting as if they always act with the utmost class. And as you have probably know by now, that's what he continually called UCF. And now he's having to backtrack following last night's game and kind of apologize for what he had to say about the players, calling them classless over and over and over. You've seen a number of things come up since he took over the program last year for Chris Beard, who was fired from the Texas head coaching position after an assault charge for domestic violence that Chris Beard was given earlier in the season. Now, Terry, of course, went on to lead the Longhorns to an Elite Eight finish in the NCAA tournament, kept the job full-time because of that, but it's starting to look as if maybe his grip on this job is not as tight as he would like it to be, and it's getting the best of him. Let's just hear what he had to say about it here.
You win the right way, you lose the right way, and I always tell my guys, whether you win or lose, you win the right way. You lose the right way, you carry yourself the right way. You don't go through the handshake line or prior to getting to the handshake line and have about 6 or 7 guys putting the horns down. We don't do that, because when you do those kind of things.
But is this doing things the right way? It looks like he was the one that was making the big fuss. Anyway.
It looks very classless, and it also looks like you were just hoping to win. We never go into games trying to hope to win. We go into games expecting to win. So we don't act like that. We expect to win. We don't jump up and down like we won a national championship. We sure don't step on anyone's home court deal and act crazy and try to show them up in any way. We don't do that.
As you can see, he's there going right off on them as he sees it. They weren't doing it at any of these players, at the coach himself. They were throwing the horns down to each other, those two teammates that we saw right there. The guys that you saw right at the very first were doing it to their teammates as well. None of this was directed at the fans. None of this was directed at Coach Terry. None of this was directed at anyone but themselves. Yeah, is it disparaging to throw the horns down? Of course. But here's the thing. If it's disparaging to throw them down, what about throwing them up? If you can sit there and throw the horns up, then why can't you throw them down if you're the opposing team? None of this makes a whole lot of sense to me, but it never has. And this has been going on all the way back since Mac Brown was the head football coach. He used to call it disrespectful. Well, it's kind of happened ever since then. And especially Tom Herman in the Big 12, when, they went to the Big 12 and wanted it stopped during games and stuff like that. They decided to make it a penalty, a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty in games if you threw the horns down up, whether you were actually taunting a player or not. Now, what you do after the game, they've never done anything about. And Oklahoma, for one, has made sure not to get any of those taunting penalties for throwing the horns down during one of those football games. But they always seem to throw them down afterwards, as we saw this year when Oklahoma, for the 7th time in 10 years, beat the Longhorns in the Red River Shootout. Again, I'm not sure what the big deal is, but let's continue listening to what Coach Terry had to say.
Try to show them up in any way. We don't do that, so that's what I was angry about. And I was letting those guys know, you don't do that. You guys won. Hey, we shake your hand, tip our hat to you, but we're not going to let you act that way in our building. You're not going to do that. You're not going to put your horns down and do all that nonsense.
Not going to get to do that in our building and do all that nonsense. We're not going to let you do it. So much for the narrative that all these Texas fans love to put out there that they don't care about the horns down sign. Come on now. Come on. Now, of course, following Texas's win over Baylor on Saturday night, the coach was obviously in a different mood than, losing at home to UCF. This is the number 9 team in the country. They're actually in Waco and got a big win, which is probably what you really, really need to have if you are Rodney Terry right now, because, again, I'm not sure how tight a grip he has on this program unless they can find a way to make the tournament again and probably make a pretty deep run. But it's funny to me that the things that he continually shouted out, you don't do that. That's classless. Don't do that shit. He called them out and talked about how we're not going to show them up. We're not going to do this and do that. And yet, again, as I said, the only thing that you saw out of the players, they were doing that with each other, throwing the horns down to each other, never did it to another player or to a coach or anybody else. But that's showing up Texas. But it wasn't showing up those players to scream at them while you're walking through the handshake line after the game. Well, apparently he felt differently on Saturday because he, in his post-game press conference, made the comment that I had no intention of trying to show up anyone or offend anyone in terms of what occurred at the end of the game. he described Johnny Dawkins as a really good friend of mine, according to the Associated Press, and said that he has a good program. They're having a good year. Personally, if I offended him or his program or anyone for that matter, that was not my intention. We have a lot of passion for who we are and what we're representing. We tried to do that in a class manner at the highest level. If I offended some of our fans as well and not handling myself in the right way, I apologize to our fan base as well and understand what it means to be the head coach of the University of Texas and what our brand stands for. This is sounds to me like maybe the athletic director and some folks around Austin are probably not loving what they saw out of Coach Terry here. And you can go back and we'll take a look real quick at some of the stuff you heard on social media. Of course, he was widely panned all over social media, all over sports talk radios, sports talk podcast, all of that stuff since Wednesday night after the incident. Pretty funny stuff, to be honest with you. But I go back to what I said earlier. This isn't really anything new for the University of Texas. Now, you haven't seen any coaches really go after a certain player or a group of players during a game for doing it. They've just whined and complained and made there be a rule get passed amongst Big 12 officials that said you're not going to be able to do that during games, in football at least. Generally, every time you hear a bunch of this kind of stuff, it turns into more of it happening. My guess is you're probably going to see quite a bit more of it throughout the rest of the Big 12 season. That, of course, made Texas 1-3 in Big 12 play. And according to Ken Pomeroy's rankings, after that game, they were somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's see, I want to say 54th in the nation. No. Yeah, somewhere in the Ken Pomeroy race. In those rankings, Ken Pom projects Texas to finish around 17-14 overall, 6-12 in league play, and that would likely not secure Texas an NCAA tournament bid. Again, this is just one season following their Elite Eight entry. That would not be good news for Coach Terry. I think that a lot of folks struggled to believe that he was the right guy for the job after they had to fire, after they had to get rid of their coach a year ago, Chris Beard. But, that's who they went ahead and went with because of that deep run. I don't think that he would have kept that job at any other way. But they're already now 13-5, 2-3 in the Big 12. It's a gauntlet of games in this conference, of course, being the best conference in the country for basketball. You've added in for this season, Houston, which has had a number one seed, I want to say 3 out of the last 4 seasons in the NCAA tournament. They're coming in, Kelvin Sampson's team, Kelvin Sampson knows a little bit about this as well. Let's share with you what he had to say about this whole flap.
Thing when you were there, I mean, was that a big deal with your fans?
Yeah. Are you kidding me? University of Texas has OU sucks in their fight song, for God's sake. I mean, look at their fight song. It says OU sucks. I think OU is the one that started the horns down. So, but in an indirect way, University of Texas should actually take it as a compliment, because they have such a great athletic department, and they've had kind of been a department that's defined by how much success that they've had in the past.
As you could see, kind of felt like Coach Sampson might have wanted to go a little further with that, talking a little more smack about Texas. Everybody knows that Houston has no love for the University of Texas. Obviously, we know that us Oklahoma fans have no love for the University of Texas either. Look, man, this is good stuff. Again, as I said, after the amazing response that I've gotten from all you Texas fans over my opinion that Texas will continue to be second best when it comes to Red River rivals in the SEC moving forward, I figured I might as well throw that out there for you as well. Look, the bottom line to me is, and I'm not alone. I'm not alone. A lot of folks have panned this. I heard on Dan Patrick's show the other day, they were, laughing and saying basically the same thing that I said a few minutes ago. If you're gonna get rid of hand signs that disparaging hand signs, well, then this could be considered the same thing if you are not a Texas guy. If a Texas guy is running up, throwing those, horns up at you and yelling hook 'em, then, you could consider it the same way. But this is the same kind of stuff that we get all the time. It was Tom Herman was particularly loud about it. It's funny. I hadn't heard a ton from Sark out of this, when it comes to this kind of stuff. And, but I know one thing, when it came to Tom Herman, he was very outspoken about it. He was the head coach, I believe, when that rule first came into play in the Big 12 that said, hey, we're going to give you a penalty if it goes on during the game. Oklahoma coaches have made it clear that they weren't going to allow that to go on during the game because they did not want to get a penalty in an important game like that that's going to cause them to lose. But we know that, once the games are over and the golden hat is being, worn by OU players, again, 7 out of 10 years right now, they throw them down plenty. Let's take a look at some of these Twitter responses to this the other day. Here's a few of the tweets that Yahoo Sports compiled for their social media reaction story they put up the other day. But of course, Cyclone Larry, who is one of the great trolls on Twitter, said Texas hired Rodney Terry with the crying, laughing emojis. This was pretty funny too. I almost got Rodney Terry's glasses tattooed on my body, and I'm glad I didn't. Barstool UCF. One thing you got to say about UCF is they are world-class trolls, to be sure. Rodney Terry, the coach of Texas basketball, show me where Nitro hurt you with a stuffed animal, which is kind of funny. Then Rude Wayne, this is a Texas fan and another one of those guys that on Twitter is very outspoken, generally in favor of Texas, but even he had something to this is what he feels about Rodney Terry right now. Get him out. Good stuff. And then Robert Behrens, Rodney Terry is setting back the we don't care about the horns down movement, setting the we don't care about the horns down movement back decades tonight. About 6 or 7 guys putting the horns down. We don't do that because you do those kind of things. It looks very classless. Yeah, clearly. I mean, not so classless to for whatever other reason though, right? Of course, as I said, not that surprising that you're starting to hear some things like, what you're seeing here. Rodney Terry was a terrible hire. Rodney Terry is soft. Wouldn't be shocked if he gets fired this year. Wait, so Rodney Terry was yelling at UCF players for throwing the horns down. That can't be true. The old Kobe soft meme is always great. And then you've got Allie, who's clearly a Texas fan. Rodney Terry, bro. They have every right to put the horns down. They just beat us in our house after being down double digits. 16 to be exact. 16 at one point in this game. Pretty wild stuff. But as I said, not ultra surprising if you're used to and have been following this for very long. You know, just not really that surprising, folks, even though it should be. And yeah, as one of those tweets said, you know, this probably set back that whole idea that, oh, we don't care nothing about that. It's stupid. We're just living rent free in your head. I love that one. That's my favorite that comes from Texas fans, is that every time you say anything about them, they're living rent free in your head. I think that's the stupidest thing in the world to say. You know, again, I have a horns down hat. You know, I wear it. One of the guys that actually we do work with quite a bit over the last year and a half, Christian from Lone Star College Football, he didn't like a short that I put up on TikTok and made the comment about it being funny that my avatar had a horns down hat, which he called our logo, flipped upside down. And that it was funny that I had that as my avatar, particularly whenever the short was about that, him throwing that fit. It really irks them, and they act like it doesn't irk them, but it does irk them, as we can see here. I'm here for all of it, guys. I really am. Good stuff. Just wanted to throw this out there for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. What do you think about his apology? Do you think he has a chance to keep his job at the University of Texas heading into the SEC next year, where we know things will be much easier, I think, for everybody, right? Much easier in the SEC. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you on the next one. Horns down.